Please, somebody. I can't get up.
Sir! I'm coming! Give me your hand!
I can't, my chest, I can't breathe.
Look at me, look at me. I got you, hold on.
Owen Harris pulled the old man off the pavement with both arms, ripped his only jacket off and wrapped it around the stranger's body.
Son, you'll freeze without that.
Which way's home, sir?
21 years old, $4 in his pocket, a night shift starting in 11 minutes that he'd just thrown away. The old man looked at Owen, looked at his torn shirt, his cracked hands, stared like he was memorizing every detail of his face. Owen didn't think anything of it. He should have, because what showed up at his mother's front door the next morning changed the Harris family forever. But to understand what that morning meant, you need to understand what Owen Harris woke up to every other morning of his life. Shelby Avenue sat on the south side of Memphis, Tennessee, the kind of street where every house leaned a little, where porch lights flickered because the wiring was older than the people living inside, where the sidewalk cracked so deep that weeds grew through like they owned the place. Owen lived in a duplex at the end of the block. The roof leaked in 3 spots, one right above his bed. He'd put a bucket there. Some nights the dripping was so steady it sounded like a metronome. The kitchen floor groaned every time you stepped near the stove. The walls had water stains that Denise Owen's mother had tried to cover with dollar store picture frames. It didn't work, but she did it anyway. Owen was 21 years old, tall but thin, the kind of thin that didn't come from choice. His collarbones pressed against his skin like they were trying to break through. His hands were rough, cracked at the knuckles from years of lifting things heavier than he was. He wore the same faded jacket every day, olive green splitting at both shoulders, the zipper broken since last winter. His jeans had been patched so many times the thread didn't even match anymore, and his sneakers held together with dollar store glue made a soft peeling sound every time he took a step. He worked 2 jobs. Mornings he loaded crates at Mr. Grady's grocery store on Lamar Avenue. 40-pound boxes of canned goods, sacks of rice, pallets of bottled water. 6 hours, $8.25 an hour. His back ached by noon, his shoulders burned by 2, but he never clocked out early. Nights he washed dishes at Rosie's Diner on 3rd Street. Hot water up to his elbows for 5 hours straight. $7.75 an hour. No breaks longer than 10 minutes. The steam made his skin peel around his fingernails. He wrapped them in tape and kept scrubbing. Between the two, he pulled in just under $1,400 a month. Rent alone was $950. The math never worked. Owen knew that. He kept a small notebook in his back pocket, every page filled with numbers. What was owed, what was due, what was late. He'd sit at the kitchen table after midnight, pencil in hand, trying to make columns add up to something that looked like enough. They never did. But Owen didn't complain. Not once. Not to his mother, not to his co-workers, not to anyone. Denise Harris was 53. She worked 2 shifts at a laundromat on Poplar Avenue, folding, pressing, sorting, hauling bags that weighed almost as much as she did. She had chronic back pain, the kind that started sharp in the morning and settled into a deep, constant ache by noon. She never saw a doctor. No insurance, no savings. She just took ibuprofen and kept moving. Owen watched her every morning, watched her grip the edge of the counter as she straightened up. Watched her close her eyes for 2 seconds, breathe through it, and then smile like nothing was wrong. He never said anything, but he noticed everything. On the fridge door, behind a magnet shaped like a sunflower, was a folded notice. 3rd one this year. Final warning, pay the back rent or vacate by the 30th. Owen had hidden it there so his mother wouldn't see it. He'd already called the landlord twice, begged for an extension. Got 1 more week. 1 week. The electricity bill was 2 months behind. Owen had started unplugging everything before bed. The toaster, the microwave, the lamp in the hallway. Anything to keep the meter from ticking. He ate less so Denise could eat more. When she asked if he'd had dinner, he'd say, "Yeah, ate at the diner." He hadn't. Rosie's didn't feed the dishwashers. He just drank water from the tap and waited for the hunger to pass. Every morning before work, Owen walked past Mrs. Patterson's house 3 doors down. She was 70, lived alone, and her front steps were rotting so bad one of them had caved in. Nobody fixed it. The city didn't care. Her family didn't visit. So Owen fixed it himself. Found scrap wood behind the grocery store. Borrowed a hammer from a neighbor. Spent 40 minutes before his shift one Saturday morning nailing new planks into place. Mrs. Patterson came out with a plate of oatmeal cookies. Homemade. Still warm. "Owen Harris, you didn't have to do that." "Couldn't have you fallen, Mrs. Patterson." He took the cookies, thanked her, broke one in half, ate a piece, and slipped the rest into his jacket pocket. For his mama. That was Owen. He didn't talk about being good. He just was. Quietly, consistently, without anyone watching. That Tuesday evening, Owen left the duplex around 7:30. Sky was gray but calm. He zipped his jacket as far as the broken zipper would go and started walking toward Rosie's Diner. It was a 25-minute walk. He knew every crack in the sidewalk by heart. He looked up once. Clouds were stacking thick, dark, moving fast from the west. He pulled the jacket tighter. He had no idea that in less than 2 hours, he'd give that jacket away to a complete stranger. The storm that hit Memphis that Tuesday night wasn't on the forecast. It came fast. 1 minute the sky was gray and heavy. The next, the wind shifted hard from the west and the clouds split open like something had torn them apart. Rain didn't fall, it attacked. Sheets of water slammed the pavement so hard the gutters overflowed in seconds. Hail pinged off car hoods, street signs rattled. The traffic lights on Shelby Avenue swung sideways and went dark one by one like someone was pulling plugs. Owen was 8 minutes into his walk to Rosie's Diner when it hit. He didn't have an umbrella, didn't own one. He ducked under a bus stop awning and pressed himself against the glass. His jacket soaked through in under a minute. Water ran down his forehead into his eyes. His sneakers squelched. The glue on the left sole started giving. He checked the time on the cracked phone screen in his pocket. 8:41. Shift started at 9. 19 minutes. If he ran, he'd make it. Barely. He stepped back into the rain and started moving. 4 blocks north of Shelby Avenue in the opposite direction, Gerald Whitfield was already in trouble. He'd been at Elmwood Cemetery since 4 o'clock that afternoon. Same bench, same plot, same white carnations, Eleanor's favorite. He sat there every Tuesday, rain or shine, and talked to his wife like she could still hear him. Today he'd stayed longer than usual. Told her about the house, how quiet it was. How the hallway still smelled like her perfume some mornings, even though he knew that was impossible. How he'd been eating dinner alone at the same table for 3 years and still set 2 places out of habit. He lost track of time. When the first crack of thunder hit, Gerald looked up and realized the sky had turned black. He reached for his phone and called Raymond, his driver. "Mr. Whitfield, I'm stuck on Union. Whole road's flooded. Fire department's blocking it off. I can't get through." "How long?" "Could be an hour, maybe more." Gerald hung up. He looked at the cemetery gate, looked at the road. It was about 1.5 miles to his house in Chickasaw Gardens. He'd walked it before, years ago, when his knees still worked and Eleanor walked beside him. He gripped his wooden cane, pushed himself up from the bench. "I walked this city before you were born, Raymond," he muttered to no one. "I'll manage." He didn't manage. The first quarter-mile was slow but steady. Gerald kept his head down, one hand on his cane, the other holding his vest collar closed against the wind. His cashmere was soaked. His Oxford shirt clung to his chest. The leather shoes that he'd polished that morning filled with water at every step. Then the sidewalk dipped where a storm drain had collapsed. Gerald didn't see it. His cane hit the edge, slipped. The wood cracked, snapped clean in half, and Gerald went down hard on both knees. His right hand caught the pavement. Skin tore across his palm. He tried to get up. His knees wouldn't lock. His chest tightened, not sharp but heavy. The kind of pressure his cardiologist had warned him about. "Don't overexert. Don't get cold. Don't let your heart rate spike." He was doing all 3. Gerald knelt there on Shelby Avenue in the pouring rain. Cars passed. 1, 2, 3. Headlights swept over him and kept moving. Nobody stopped. Nobody even slowed down. His breathing shortened. His fingers started to go numb. The rain was so loud he couldn't hear his own voice when he finally opened his mouth. "Help! Somebody! Please!" Nothing. He said it again, louder. His voice cracked on the last word. "Help!" 6 blocks south, Owen Harris was running, head down, arms pumping. 15 minutes to make his shift. Every second counted. Every dollar from tonight meant the lights stayed on one more day. Then he heard it. Faint, almost swallowed by the wind. A voice, thin, broken, coming from somewhere ahead. Owen slowed, wiped the rain from his eyes, squinted through the sheets of water. 30 feet ahead, a shape on the ground, white hair, dark vest, 2 halves of a broken cane scattered on the pavement. An old man, on his knees, in the middle of the road. Owen looked at his phone. 8:52. 8 minutes to clock in. If he stopped now, he wouldn't make it. If he didn't make it, Rosie would let him go. If Rosie let him go, he couldn't pay the electric bill. If he couldn't pay the electric bill, he stopped thinking. He ran toward the old man. "Sir! Sir, don't close your eyes. Stay with me." What happened over the next 45 minutes would stay with Gerald Whitfield for the rest of his life. Owen dropped to his knees beside the old man. The pavement was freezing. Water rushed past them like a shallow river. "Sir, can you hear me?" Gerald's eyes were half open. His breathing was shallow. His right hand was bleeding, palm scraped raw from the fall. His white hair was plastered flat against his skull. "My cane! It broke." "Forget the cane. Can you stand?" I don't think so." Owen looked around. The street was empty. No cars, no pedestrians, just rain and wind and the distant flicker of a traffic light swinging on its wire. He slid his arm under Gerald's left shoulder, braced his legs, pulled. Gerald was heavier than he expected, dead weight against Owen's thin frame. Owen's sneakers slipped on the wet pavement. The glued sole peeled back completely on the left shoe. He adjusted his grip, dug in, and pulled again. Gerald came up, shaking, unsteady, but standing. "Hold on to me, sir. I got you." Gerald gripped Owen's arm. His fingers, pale, wrinkled, trembling, pressed into the wet fabric of Owen's t-shirt sleeve. Owen could feel the old man's pulse through his fingertips. It was fast, too fast. "Where do you live, sir?" "Chickasaw Gardens. It's about a mile north." A mile, in this storm, with a man who could barely stand. Owen didn't hesitate. "Then we better start walking." They moved slowly. Owen kept his left arm locked around Gerald's waist and his right hand gripping the old man's forearm. Every step was deliberate. Every few feet, Owen would scan the sidewalk ahead for cracks, puddles, broken glass, anything that could bring them both down. After 3 blocks, Owen stopped. He looked at Gerald. The old man's lips were turning pale. His cashmere vest was soaked through. His body was shaking, not from effort, but from cold. Owen unzipped his jacket, the faded olive green one, the one with the split seams and the broken zipper, the only warm thing he owned. He draped it over Gerald's shoulders. "Son, what are you doing?" "You need it more than I do right now." "You'll freeze." "I run hot, sir. Don't worry about me." He didn't run hot. He was already shivering, but he kept walking. The rain didn't let up. If anything, it got worse. Wind drove the water sideways into their faces. Owen turned his body to shield Gerald from the worst of it, walking slightly ahead, slightly to the left, taking the brunt of the wind on his bare arms. His t-shirt was see-through now, plastered against his chest. You could see every rib, every ridge of his spine when he leaned forward against the wind. Gerald noticed. He noticed everything. 5 blocks in Gerald's chest tightened again. He stopped walking. His free hand went to his sternum. His breathing turned ragged, short, sharp inhales that didn't seem to fill his lungs. "Sir, are you okay?" Just need a minute." "Do you need me to call 911? No hospital, just let me sit." Owen looked around. There was a porch 3 houses up covered with a low step. He guided Gerald toward it, eased him down onto the dry concrete under the overhang. Gerald sat with his back against the railing, eyes closed, chest rising and falling in uneven intervals. Owen crouched beside him, one hand on the old man's shoulder. They stayed like that for almost 5 minutes. The rain hammered the porch roof above them. Water poured off the edges like a curtain. Owen watched Gerald's breathing, counted the seconds between each inhale, waited for the rhythm to steady. He didn't check his phone. He didn't think about Rosie's. He didn't think about the electric bill or the eviction notice or the $4 in his pocket. He just stayed. When Gerald finally opened his eyes, he looked at Owen for a long time. Really looked. At the kid's soaked t-shirt, his cracked hands, his ruined shoes, the way he crouched there, patient, calm, steady, like he had nowhere else in the world to be. "Why did you stop, Owen?" "Sir?" "Out there. In the rain. Why did you stop for me? Nobody else did." Owen was quiet for a moment. Rain dripped from his hair down the bridge of his nose. "My mama always said if you can help, you help. Don't matter who, don't matter when." Gerald stared at him. Then he nodded slowly. Something shifted behind his eyes, something Owen couldn't read. "Your mother raised a good man." "She'd say she's still working on it." Gerald almost smiled. They started moving again. Slower now. Gerald's breathing had steadied, but his legs were weak. Owen took more of his weight, almost carrying him by the last 2 blocks. They turned onto a wide, tree-lined street. The houses here were different, set back from the road. Long driveways, iron gates, manicured lawns even in the rain. Owen had never been in this part of Memphis. Gerald pointed ahead. "That one, with the stone columns." Owen looked. A large house, not a mansion, but close. 2 stories, warm light glowing through tall windows. A wrought iron gate that swung open automatically as they approached. A gravel driveway, white stones perfectly raked. Owen's shoes crunched on the gravel. One shoe, anyway. The other just slapped, the sole was completely gone now. He walked Gerald up the front steps, helped him sit down in a cushioned chair on the covered porch, checked his breathing, checked his hands, made sure the bleeding on his palm had stopped. "You're okay now, sir. You're home." Gerald looked up at Owen. Rain was still streaming down the kid's face. His arms were covered in goosebumps. His lips had gone slightly blue. "Come inside, son. At least dry off." "I should probably get going." "Owen, come inside." Inside, Owen saw things he didn't understand yet. A hallway lined with framed photographs. Gerald shaking hands with men in suits. Gerald cutting a ribbon in front of a building. Gerald standing on a construction site wearing a hard hat surrounded by men who looked like they worked for him. Owen glanced at the photos. Didn't ask. He was more concerned with finding Gerald a dry towel. Gerald Whitfield had met a lot of people in 78 years. Business partners, politicians, contractors who smiled to his face and stole behind his back. People who wanted something. People who always wanted something. He had never met anyone like Owen Harris. The kid stood in the foyer dripping rainwater onto a hardwood floor that cost more than his mother's rent for a year. He didn't notice. He was too busy wringing out a towel and handing it to Gerald. "Here, sir. Dry your hair first. You don't want to catch pneumonia." Gerald took the towel, watched Owen scan the house not with envy, not with awe, but with the quick eyes of someone checking whether the old man had what he needed. Water, heat, a chair. "Sit down, son. I'll get you something warm." "Sir, you just nearly collapsed. You sit down, I'll figure out the kitchen." Gerald sat. Something about the way Owen said it left no room for argument. Owen found the kitchen, bigger than his entire living room, marble counters, 6-burner stove, a refrigerator that could hold a month of groceries. He opened it fully stocked. Eggs, butter, bread, soup. Things Owen's fridge hadn't seen in weeks. He heated soup, set 2 bowls on the table, placed a napkin beside each one, pulled out Gerald's chair for him. They ate in silence. Rain tapped the tall windows. For the first time in hours, Owen's hands stopped shaking. Gerald watched him eat, Watched how he held the spoon carefully like the bowl might be taken away. Watched how he tore bread into small pieces to make it last. Watched how he finished every drop and then picked up both bowls and carried them to the sink. Nobody asked him to do that. Owen. Yes, sir. Gerald pulled out a leather wallet, took out a $100 bill and set it on the counter. For tonight. For your trouble. Owen looked at the bill. $100. That was the electric bill. That was a week of breathing room. That was his mother not worrying for 7 days. He shook his head. Sir, I didn't do it for money. You needed help, that's it. Gerald pulled out another bill. $200 now. Then at least let me pay for the shift you missed. You lost wages because of me. Owen went quiet. His jaw tightened. Gerald could see the math running behind the kid's eyes. Rent, electric, groceries, the eviction notice he thought nobody knew about. 3 seconds of silence. I appreciate it, Mr. Whitfield, I really do. Owen slid the bills back across the counter. But I'm good. He wasn't good. They both knew that. Gerald put the money away. He didn't push again. But he filed that moment, the 3 seconds, the tightened jaw, the decision to say no, when everything in the kid's life was screaming yes. Owen called Denise, kept it short. Mama, I'm fine. Help someone get home. Be there soon. He walked to the front door. His jacket dried near the heating vent, was the only thing in this house that belonged to him. He put it on. Gerald pulled a small white card from his shirt pocket. Plain, simple, just a name. Gerald Whitfield, and a phone number. No logo, no title, no company. Take this, Owen, in case you ever need anything. Owen slipped it into his jeans pocket without looking at it. Thank you for the soup, Mr. Whitfield. Thank you for a great deal more than that, son. Owen stepped into the light rain, turned back once. Mr. Whitfield, get some rest, and maybe don't walk in any more storms. Gerald almost laughed. Owen walked home. 45 minutes in the drizzle. His left shoe flapped with every step, but his chest felt warm in a way he couldn't explain. In his pocket, a small white card sat against his thigh. He had no idea what it was worth. Owen fell asleep that night thinking he'd done a small thing. He was wrong. He got home a little past 11. Denise was still up, sitting at the kitchen table in her bathrobe, hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had gone cold. Where were you? I was worried sick. Helped an old man get home in the storm. He fell on Shelby, couldn't get up. Denise looked at him. Soaked clothes, one shoe missing its sole, shivering. You walked him home in that? Yes, ma'am. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she stood up, pulled a dry towel from the closet and draped it over his shoulders. Same thing he'd done for Gerald 2 hours ago. That's my boy. She didn't ask anything else. Owen didn't offer anything else. That was how they worked. He emptied his pockets onto the kitchen table. 4 crumpled dollar bills, a receipt from the grocery store, and a small white card. Denise picked it up, turned it over. Gerald Whitfield, who's that? The man I helped, nice guy, lives up in Chickasaw Gardens. Denise raised an eyebrow. Chickasaw Gardens was old money, doctors, lawyers, the kind of people who didn't end up on their knees on Shelby Avenue. She set the card down. Get some sleep, baby. Owen showered, changed into dry clothes, fell asleep in under 3 minutes. The card sat on the kitchen table under the sunflower magnet right next to the eviction notice. He didn't think about it again. 14 miles north, Gerald Whitfield was wide awake. He sat in his study. The room was dark except for a brass desk lamp that cast a warm circle across a mahogany desk. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. In front of him, a phone. He dialed a number. Thomas, I need you at my house tomorrow morning, 7 sharp. Bring the foundation paperwork, all of it. Thomas Caldwell, Gerald's attorney for 31 years, paused on the other end. Gerald, it's 11 at night. Which foundation? Eleanor's, the community initiative, the one she asked me to start before she died. Another pause, longer this time. Gerald, that file has been sitting in your drawer for 2 years. I know, bring it. He hung up. opened the bottom drawer of his desk, pulled out a thick folder, cream-colored, slightly dusty. The tab read, Whitfield and Sons Community Initiative. Eleanor's handwriting. He ran his thumb across the ink, looked at the framed photograph on his desk. Eleanor smiling, summer dress, the garden behind their house. I found him, Ellie. I think I finally found a reason. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sky was beginning to clear. 3 black SUVs would leave Gerald Whitfield's driveway at 6:45 the next morning. Owen Harris had no idea. Owen opened the door, and for the first time in his life, he had absolutely no words. It was 6:52 in the morning. He was already dressed, same jeans, same patched jacket, same broken sneakers. Cup of instant coffee in one hand, about to head to Mr. Grady's grocery store for the morning shift. Then he heard the engines. Not one engine, multiple. Deep, heavy idling, the kind of sound that didn't belong on Shelby Avenue. Owen looked through the kitchen window. His coffee hand stopped halfway to his mouth. 3 black SUVs, parked in a row outside the duplex. Tinted windows, clean, not a scratch on them. They looked like they'd been delivered from another planet. "Mama, come here!" Denise came out of the hallway, still tying her robe. "What is it?" "Look outside." She looked. Her hands stopped moving on the robe sash. "Owen, who are those people?" "I don't know." The door of the middle SUV opened. A man stepped out. Gray suit, navy tie, polished shoes. He walked to the rear passenger door and opened it. Gerald Whitfield stepped out. But this wasn't the Gerald from last night. Last night, Gerald was a frail old man on his knees in the rain. Broken cane, soaked vest, trembling fingers. This morning, Gerald Whitfield stood straight. Dark charcoal suit tailored to his frame. A blue pocket square folded sharp in his breast pocket. His silver hair was combed back. His shoes were polished. He looked like a man who owned things. Because he did. Behind Gerald, 2 more people stepped out. A tall man in a dark suit carrying a leather briefcase, Thomas Caldwell, attorney. And a woman in a navy blazer with a folder tucked under her arm, Rebecca Moore, something important. Owen didn't know what yet. Gerald walked toward the duplex. Slow, steady. No cane today, he held a new one. Polished oak with a brass handle but barely leaned on it. He looked up at the cracked siding, the sagging porch, the front step that dipped in the middle. He looked at all of it the way a man looks at a problem he's already decided to solve. Owen stepped outside. "Mr. Whitfield, what are you doing here?" Gerald smiled, not a big smile, a quiet one, the kind that starts in the eyes. "Told you I'd remember, didn't I?" "Sir, you didn't have to come all the way." "Invite me in, Owen." Owen looked back at Denise. She nodded slowly, already smoothing down her hair with her hands, already embarrassed about the bathrobe, the cluttered kitchen, the cracked linoleum floor. They went inside. Gerald didn't look at the peeling wallpaper, didn't look at the water stains on the ceiling. He looked at the sunflower magnet on the fridge and the 2 pieces of paper tucked behind it. The white card he'd given Owen last night, and right next to it a folded notice. He didn't need to read it. He knew what a final warning looked like. He sat at the kitchen table. Thomas Caldwell opened his briefcase and placed a stack of documents on the surface. Rebecca Moore stood to the side, folder in hand, waiting. "Mrs. Harris, my name is Gerald Whitfield. Your son saved my life last night." Denise looked at Owen. Owen looked at the floor. "He didn't tell you that part, did he? He said he helped someone get home. He carried me a mile through the worst storm this city's seen in 5 years, gave me his jacket, missed his shift, refused every dollar I offered him." Gerald paused. "Ma'am, I've built things my entire life. Buildings, bridges, roads. But I have never built anything as solid as what you built in that boy." Denise pressed her lips together. Her eyes were already wet. Thomas Caldwell cleared his throat. "Mr. Harris, Mrs. Harris." He turned a document toward them. "Gerald Whitfield is the founder and chairman emeritus of Whitfield and Sons Construction. It is one of the largest construction and development firms in the Mid-South region. Mr. Whitfield's company built the Riverside Medical Center, the downtown convention hall, and over 300 residential and commercial properties across Shelby County. Silence. Owen stared at the lawyer, then at Rebecca Moore, then at Gerald, then at the small white card on the fridge. Just a name, just a number, no logo, no title. Because a man like Gerald Whitfield didn't need a title on his card. Everyone who mattered already knew. Owen's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Denise sat down, not because she wanted to, because her legs gave out. Mr. Whitfield. Owen's voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know who you were. Gerald leaned forward, looked Owen straight in the eyes. I know you didn't, son. That's exactly why I'm here. He reached across the table and put his hand on Owen's arm, the same arm Owen had used to pull him off the pavement 12 hours ago. You helped me because I was an old man in the rain, not because of what I have, not because of what I could give you. You helped me because that's who you are. Gerald sat back, folded his hands. Now, I'd like to tell you why I brought Thomas and Rebecca with me this morning. Owen looked at his mother. Denise looked at Owen. Neither of them breathed. And what Mrs. Harris is about to hear, Gerald said quietly, is going to make her cry. And that's okay, because for the first time they're going to be the right kind of tears. Gerald Whitfield didn't come with charity. He came with a plan. He looked at Owen, then at Denise, then back at Owen. Before I say anything else, I want to tell you both something. About my wife. The room went still. Eleanor passed 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. Fast. Cruel. She was here 1 month and gone the next. Gerald's voice didn't break, but it slowed, like he was choosing each word carefully so none of them would cut him on the way out. Every Tuesday I visit her grave at Elmwood, sit on the same bench, bring white carnations, her favorite, talk to her like she can still hear me. Maybe she can. I don't know. He paused. Eleanor spent the last 10 years of her life trying to get me to do something with our money. Not make more of it. Use it. She wanted to build a fund, something for families who were 1 bad month away from losing everything. Scholarships, home repairs, job training. She had the whole thing planned out. Gerald opened the cream-colored folder, Eleanor's handwriting on the tab. She asked me to start it before she died. I said I would. He looked down at the folder. I didn't. For 2 years, this sat in my desk drawer. I told myself I was too busy, too tired, too old. But the truth is, I stopped believing there was a point. He looked at Owen. Last night, you changed that. Owen shifted in his chair. He didn't know where to look. You pulled me off the ground in the rain. You gave me your only jacket. You walked me a mile on a shoe that was falling apart. You fed me soup in my own kitchen. And when I tried to pay you twice, you slid the money back and said you were good. Gerald shook his head slowly. You weren't good, Owen. You were broke. You were cold. You were about to lose your home. And you still said no. Denise's hand went to her mouth. She looked at Owen. He looked at the table. That's when I knew, Gerald said. That's when I knew Eleanor was right, and I was done waiting. He nodded at Thomas Caldwell. The attorney slid 3 documents across the table. First, Gerald tapped the top document. Full academic scholarship to the University of Memphis. Construction management program, 4 years. Tuition, books, supplies, living expenses, all covered. Whitfield & Sons is sponsoring it directly. When you graduate, there's an apprenticeship waiting for you at the company. Real position, real salary, clear path up. Owen read the paper, read it again. His lips moved slightly like he was sounding out words he didn't quite trust. Mr. Whitfield, I can't. You're not accepting charity, Owen. You're accepting an opportunity you earned. There's a difference. Keep reading. Second, Gerald looked at Denise. Mrs. Harris, there's a position open in the administrative office at Whitfield & Sons. Office manager. Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Full benefits, health insurance, dental retirement plan. The health plan covers pre-existing conditions. including chronic back pain. Denise blinked. Her hand came away from her mouth. She tried to speak. Nothing came. Gerald continued gently. I understand you've been working double shifts at a laundromat. I understand you've been in pain for a long time and haven't been able to see a doctor. That ends now. If you want the position, it's yours, starting the 1st of next month. Denise looked at Owen. Owen's eyes were red. He was pressing his thumbnail into the edge of the table so hard the skin had gone white. 3rd. Gerald slid the last document forward. Your house. I'm sending a crew from Whitfield & Sons to this address on Saturday. New roof, new floors, electrical, plumbing, fresh paint, everything. Full renovation, no cost. He looked around the kitchen, at the cracked ceiling, the stained walls, the groaning floor. No family should live under a leaking roof, especially not a family like yours. Owen stood up. His chair scraped the linoleum. He took 2 steps toward the window, stood with his back to the room. His shoulders rose and fell once, twice. He pressed his fist against his mouth. Nobody spoke. Denise broke first. A sound came out of her, not a word, not a cry, something in between. 3 years of hidden pain. 3 eviction notices, $6 dinners, and ibuprofen instead of doctors. It all came out in one breath. She stood up and walked to Gerald. This woman who never hugged strangers, who never showed weakness in front of her son, who held everything together with her bare hands every single day. She put her arms around Gerald Whitfield and held on. Gerald, who hadn't been held by anyone since Eleanor died, closed his eyes and held on right back. Owen turned around, wiped his face with the back of his hand, walked to Gerald, took the old man's hand in both of his, held it the same way he'd held it in the rain 12 hours ago. Mr. Whitfield, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, son. My mama. Owen's voice cracked. He stopped, tried again. My mama has never had health insurance, not once in her life. Gerald squeezed his hand. She does now. Rebecca Moore opened her folder, quietly, professionally, but her eyes were wet too. There's one more thing, Gerald said. He pulled a single sheet from the bottom of the folder. A letterhead with a name printed across the top in dark green ink. The Eleanor Whitfield Community Fund. This is for Shelby Avenue, for every family on this block, home repairs, scholarships for young people, job placement assistance. My wife wanted this to exist, and now it will. He set the paper on the table, right next to the eviction notice. Her name deserves to be on something that matters. The first truck from Whitfield & Sons arrived on Shelby Avenue on a Saturday morning. By Sunday, the whole block was outside watching. It started with the Harris duplex, a crew of 12, 2 flatbed trucks loaded with lumber, drywall, copper piping, rolls of insulation. A foreman named Ray Sullivan, broad shoulders, steel-toed boots, 30 years in the trade, walked the property with a clipboard and a frown. Roofs shot, wiring's a hazard, plumbing's held together with tape and prayer. He looked at Owen. How long you been living like this? Long as I can remember. Ray shook his head. Not anymore. They tore the roof off on day 1. By day 3, new trusses were up. Owen asked if he could help. Ray said no. Owen showed up at 6 the next morning anyway, gloves on, ready to haul. By noon, Ray had stopped saying no. Kid learns faster than most of my guys, Ray told Gerald on the phone that night. Got good hands, good instincts, doesn't talk much, just works. Gerald wasn't surprised. The renovation took 11 days. New roof, new floors, solid hardwood replacing the groaning linoleum, fresh drywall over the water stains Denise had tried to hide with picture frames, new electrical panel, new plumbing. The kitchen got a proper stove, a refrigerator that didn't rattle, countertops that didn't chip when you set a pot down too hard. Denise walked through the finished house and touched every wall, ran her fingers along the smooth surfaces, opened every cabinet, turned every faucet on and off just to hear them work without squealing. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. Owen's scholarship started that fall. University of Memphis, construction management. He was the oldest student in most of his classes and the first one to arrive every morning. His professors noticed two things. He asked sharp questions, and he already understood materials and load-bearing in a way you couldn't learn from a textbook. Hands-on instinct, his advisor wrote in a midterm evaluation. This student has been building things his whole life. He just didn't know it had a name. 3 weeks into the semester, Ray Sullivan called Owen with a proposal. Part-time apprenticeship at Whitfield & Sons. 20 hours a week around his class schedule. Real sites, real projects, real pay. Owen said yes before Ray finished the sentence. Denise started at Whitfield & Sons on the first Monday of October. Office manager, 8 to 5. Her own desk, her own computer, a nameplate that read, Denise Harris, in small brass letters. She stared at it for 10 minutes the first morning. Her first doctor's appointment was on a Thursday. Full exam, X-rays on her lower back. The doctor said the damage was real degenerative disc compression from years of heavy lifting without support, but treatable. Physical therapy twice a week. Medication that actually worked. A plan. For the first time in 15 years, Denise stood up straight without gripping the counter. The Eleanor Whitfield Community Fund launched quietly. No press conference, no ribbon cutting. Gerald didn't want spectacle. He wanted results. The first house they repaired after the Harris duplex was Mrs. Patterson's 3 doors down. New steps, new porch railing, new windows that actually sealed. When the crew finished, Mrs. Patterson stood on her front porch and cried. Owen was there. He handed her a tissue and carried her groceries inside. By month 3, 5 houses on Shelby Avenue had been renovated. By month 6, 9. Families who had been living with mold, leaking pipes, and faulty wiring for years woke up to homes that felt like homes. The fund also awarded its first 3 scholarships, young people from the neighborhood ages 19 to 24. 2 enrolled in trade programs. 1 went to nursing school. WREG Channel 3 ran a story in November. The reporter stood on Shelby Avenue, freshly paved, new streetlights installed through a city partnership Gerald had quietly brokered. Local man's act of kindness catches attention of construction mogul. Owen didn't want to do the interview. Gerald talked him into it. Your story might inspire someone else to stop for a stranger, Owen. Owen sat in front of the camera in a new jacket, a real one, no split seams, no broken zipper, and said 5 words that the station used as the headline. I just did what was right. The segment aired on a Tuesday night. By Wednesday morning, the Eleanor Whitfield Community Fund had received $214,000 in donations from across the state. Gerald called Owen that evening. Eleanor would have loved this. Owen smiled. I think she already knows, sir. 2 years later, a storm rolled into Memphis on a Tuesday evening. Owen was 23 now, driving home from campus in a used Honda Civic that Gerald had helped him find, not bought for him, helped him find. Owen made the payments himself. That mattered to him. He looked different, not bigger, not flashier, just steadier. New jacket, clean boots. A watch Denise had given him for his birthday. Nothing expensive, but the first gift she'd ever bought with money she didn't have to choose between rent and groceries to spend. The rain came fast, same way it had 2 years ago. Sky splitting open, gutters flooding, wind bending the streetlights sideways. Owen was 4 blocks from home when he saw it. A figure on the sidewalk, older man, hunched against the rain, one hand on a mailbox trying to keep himself upright. Owen pulled over before his brain finished the thought. Engine off, door open, feet on the wet pavement. Sir, you all right? Can I help you? The man looked up. 80, maybe older. Confused, soaked through. I live on the next street. I can't see the curb in this rain. I got you. Hold my arm. Owen walked him home. 3 blocks. No umbrella, no hesitation. The old man thanked him 4 times. Owen said the same thing each time. Don't worry about it, sir. But here's the part that matters. When Owen got back to his car, 2 other vehicles had pulled over behind his. Doors open. Two young men, early 20s, already out in the rain, checking on a woman sitting at a bus stop with a toddler on her lap. Owen recognized them. Both from Shelby Avenue, both Eleanor Fund scholarship recipients. One was in a welding program. The other was 6 months into an electrical apprenticeship at a firm downtown. They saw Owen, nodded. Didn't need to explain. They already knew what you do when it storms. Owen called Gerald that night. "Mr. Whitfield, you won't believe what happened today." "Try me," Owen told him. The old man on the sidewalk, the two cars that pulled over, the woman and the toddler. Gerald was quiet for a long time. "Eleanor would have loved that, Owen." "I think she already knows, sir." It became a tradition. Every time a storm hit Memphis, Owen and the Eleanor Fund volunteers drove the neighborhood, checking on elderly residents, helping people get home, making sure nobody was left on their knees in the rain. They called it the Storm Walk. Last Tuesday, Owen sent Gerald a text message. Short, simple. "Storm tonight. We're heading out. 6 cars this time." Gerald, 80 years old now, slower but still stubborn, typed back one line. "Make it 7. I'm coming too." Owen Harris didn't save Gerald Whitfield because he knew what would happen next. He saved him because no one else stopped. 1 jacket, 1 mile, 1 storm. That's all it took. When was the last time you stopped for someone when you didn't have to? Tell me in the comments. If this moved you, hit like, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe. You know what to do.
Owen Harris had every reason to keep running that night. He stopped anyway, not because he knew who Gerald Whitfield was. He stopped because no one else did. Gerald Whitfield had the money, the lawyers, the power to change an entire neighborhood. But for 2 years, his wife's dream sat in a drawer collecting dust because he had lost faith that goodness still existed. Then a kid with $4 in his pocket and one shoe falling apart pulled him off the pavement, gave away his only jacket, and refused every dollar offered to him. That night, Gerald didn't just get rescued from a storm, he got rescued from giving up. Owen didn't unlock a fortune, he unlocked a man's belief that people like him still walk this earth, and that belief built roofs, funded scholarships, and gave an entire street a second chance. Think about this. If the cost of doing the right thing is everything you have left, is it still the right thing? And what dies inside a person when they walk past someone on their knees in the rain and never look back? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs it. Like, subscribe, and remember, you don't need a fortune to change a life. You just need to stop.